You can turn it off.
We can hear you now.
Oh, I see, Judith. I got it
Touch that
now.
green button.
Get your fingers off of that thing right now. Step back from the phone.
I see what you do.
Oh, launch missiles to Russia.
You guys have every right to be concerned with my skills. I'm not gonna say that. Okay, well, thank you. Because you guys can hear us okay? You got, that's great, beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum, and we have some people here. We have Paula, we have, I don't know your name. I know you are, but Judy. And we have Taylor, the HR director. HS director, okay. Oh, okay, all right, Eleanor, thank you.
Do you need a motion to approve the agenda?
I'm gonna we'll wait for Eleanor for a second. Human Services, sorry about that.
Take this opportunity to compliment Eleanor on the minutes. I'm always so impressed. The way last time I blow by blow. Such a good job. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm speaking which I'm ready.
Okay, so yes, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, oh, we gotta do roll call. Okay, so,
Matthew, yes.
Bert, yes.
Rich McClure, yes.
and Wendy?
Wendy, yes?
John Trudeau, yes.
Lowell, yes, and Judith?
Judith, yes.
And Leslie?
Leslie, yes.
Okay, so unanimous, Eleanor. Sorry about that, I forgot about the roll call. In the minutes of January 23rd, anyone have any questions, comments, et cetera? Otherwise, I'll accept a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so you want to start with, we'll start with Mr. Fee.
Matt, yes.
Bert, yes.
Rich, yes.
John, yes.
I'll abstain because I was absent.
Okay, and Judith,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
and the chair votes aye. So,
But Leslie was absent as well.
okay, well,
I said yes.
okay, just, that's fine. So just Eleanor, so one abstention from Wendy. Okay, so public comment, Paula? Little microphone there, always running. There it is, it's working.
Well, I'm here tonight because I'm sad, but I'm also happy. And I felt that after working with someone for 18 years and having the type of professional relationship that Mike and I had, that I should just come and say that it's been a pleasure working with you. He always kind of evened me out a little bit when, as those of you may know, I get going sometimes, and he always had really great advice. We worked together on a lot of things over the years. He never let me down. He was always very supportive. I hope that I was with you as well, and I think he's done great things for this community. I think we should all be proud that he's been here and stayed for so long and truly committed to the projects and the island and to the planning commission and to the planning department. And I hate to see him go. I'm gonna miss you, but it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Paula, thank you so much. I think every one of us feels exactly the same way.
I said it first.
You did, under public comment.
Thanks for taking me.
It's all right, Paula. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Does anyone else have anything before we move on to the first item for Mike? So Mike, UPWP, always my favorite thing.
Yes. I think
Hardest
I got that
one to
knot out of my
explain.
throat now. You might remember that at a previous meeting, you had authorized the director to sign a contract for some supplemental work to evaluate the Milestone Rotary and review the conceptual design and do right-of-way impact analysis for the conceptual alternative for the Milestone Rotary. You approved that, and a request was approved by DOT to actually fund that work. However, our UPWP does not have a task for this item, so we need to actually amend our work program to
Okay.
include this task. So staff recommends that the NPDC authorize the advertising of a public review to amend task 3.1, which is the livable, sustainable, complete streets planning task of the FY 2020 Unified Planning Work Program to add language for land surveying and engineering design services for the conceptual review of the Milestone Rotary from February 21st, 2020 to March 16th, 2020. And I'll note that at your May 16th meeting, the NPDC will need to close that public review period and take action to approve the amendment.
Okay, so this is the yellow in this, right, the amendment 174. Is that what it is, or is that a different one?
Correct. The additional language is in the packet on page 29. It's the red language, so it's adding an extra task to that,
Okay, got it.
that item.
And so the DOT, when we get asked questions about this, because this is, I don't know if everyone understands what's happening here.
Sure.
The DOT, is this going to be a tip? Is this going to be something that the state's paying for, or is this going to be, we're paying for the design and all that stuff? Or is,
Ultimately, when you get to formal engineering of the intersection, you would participate with DOT on those design. Ultimately, construction would be through the state, federal sources. So it would be a tip project. As far as whether that's something we would need to program here locally, or
That was
whether
my-
the state would
right,
actually.
this would be a kind of like outside of our tip, but it's them.
Yeah.
It just isn't the way we would, it doesn't come out of our queue, is what I guess that was really what my question was.
Exactly, and
Okay.
just to confuse us even more, what you approve is the regional tip, the regional
Yeah.
transportation improvement program for our region using our tip target. The state has what's called a statewide transportation improvement program, or STIP,
Okay.
and that includes all their projects that they maintain on their roadways that they own.
Okay.
So I'll give you, for instance, the Safe Routes to School project on Surfside Road. That's funded with statewide Safe Routes to School funds. That's not something we would include in our local tip. It's $1 million project. We're not including it in our tip because it's a state project and they're doing it with their money. So they're including it in their improvement program, not the regional program. So for this item, this is just an evaluation of the conceptual design, very early stage work. And it's more of a planning related activity. Therefore, we can fund this with our work program for planning, transportation planning activities. So we intend to do that and use our some of our $20,000 budget for consulting services for this item to do this task.
Okay. That's great. Does anyone have any questions on this item before we take a vote? If not, I'll accept the motion to approve the changes in the UPWP work program.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, yeah, no, I know. So we'll start with, we'll start with Matt.
Oh, yeah. Matt Fee, aye.
Aye.
Bert Johnson, yes.
Rich McClure, yes.
John Trudeau, aye.
Wendy Hudson, aye.
And the two attendees on the phone said aye already. So the chair votes aye too, so unanimous. I try to stay in order, Judith. It's not easy. So it's a unanimous, Eleanor. Thank you. Mike, so the next thing, what page is that next one on, Mike, if you don't mind?
31 it starts.
It does,
And,
okay.
this is the public participation plan. This is another programming document that's federally required. It outlines your strategy for reaching out to the public and getting opinion on all the material that you develop, such as the TIP and the UPWP and other studies. That document needs to be updated again. There are new standards which are included in your packet for that the state had provided for determining whether any change to the TIP, UPWP, transportation plan or other documents was whether it's an amendment or an adjustment. You might remember that vocabulary from other TIP adjustments or amendments. An adjustment's a very small level threshold for maybe changing language or adjusting a dollar figure, a modest amount. An amendment, which is you're amending the UPWP. An amendment is a little bit more of a significant role where you're adding a project or adding a task to one of these programming documents. And right now, our our public participation plan doesn't get to that level of detail, but it needs to. So the plan will incorporate the definitions for adjustments and amendments. So that document needs to be amended. It's a little bit different process. There's not a 21-day public review period. It actually requires a 45-day review period. So staff recommends that the NPDC authorize advertising of that public review period to amend the public participation plan, to add the updated definitions of adjustment and amendments, and begin that February 21st, 2020 through April 22nd, 2020. And just so you know, at your March 16th meeting, there will be an opportunity for public comment, if there's any at all. And then at your April 23rd meeting, you would then take action to close the public review period and take action to approve that amendment so that we can be in conformance with state guidance.
Okay, and this is what you were saying earlier about STIP.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm reading that now, and I see what you're saying. Their process is different, and we have to, we just have to make sure that we follow their guidelines, so. Okay, so does anyone else have any questions on this item before we take a vote? Okay, I'll accept the motion to approve the public participation plan adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Names.
Matt,
Aye. Bert Johnson, aye. Fritz McClure, aye.
John Trudell, aye.
Wendy Hudson, aye.
and chair votes aye. Judith? Hi, Judith. And Leslie?
And Leslie, aye.
Thank you. Okay, unanimous, Eleanor.
Can I just go back 1 second?
Yes.
Not this one, the one before.
Yep,
Number 24, Newtown Road, page 22. It's only money for funding of design, and it's in the plan. The design is talking about path on the right side and speed humps. I would like that, I think more appropriately, that would be on-street parking and sidewalks, and not, maybe neck downs or something. Design it as a urban environment, which is what it is and is going to continue to turn into, as opposed to trying to slow people down with speed humps, because the DPW director came to us and said they don't want those, blah, blah, blah. So I know we're gonna design it, but for the, for the record, I'd just like to point out that I'm asking for that at the beginning of the process.
what do we got for width, though, for layout? I don't think we have,
Just to be clear, this item's not on the agenda. It's, and I'd almost ask, do you want to take this up under other business? Just to go with the, because it wasn't part of the UPWP item.
Okay, I'll bring that other business.
okay, all right, okay. So the Title VI report, Mike, what page is that? Gotta be
That starts on page
34.
39, and this is purely informational. That was
Okay.
included in your packet. It's a report that has to be submitted annually. It requires updating of mapping of Title VI populations, those being minority populations, elderly, disabled, limited English-speaking proficiency populations. We have to map those and then correlate where our transportation investments have been targeted in relationship to where those populations are, so that we're not burdening or holding back any type of.
So this is environmental justice with a new term, kinda?
Environmental
a little
justice
bit.
goes a little bit further and includes more populations, and it's more of a impact of a transportation project rather
Okay.
than Title VI they're very, very similar.
Yeah. Okay, Is there anything else, Mike, on this? Do we have to take action on this, or is this just informational?
It's just informational. We've already submitted the report. It's included in the packet for you to review, and if you have questions now or in the future, happy to talk about that. But it's something interesting to track. Quite honestly, a lot of these populations, everyone lives in the town, quote unquote, area.
Mid-Island.
So
Yeah.
that's where all your populations are, not just one versus the
Right,
other.
of course. And that needs to be, you know, I don't know how you get that information to whoever's asking, but, you know, it's really not that complicated on Nantucket to figure that out, so. Okay,
It's interesting that they know where everybody is, all the
yeah.
different
I was
segments.
just thinking about the data platform and how they could maybe help with this, but the census isn't gonna help with this. This is something different.
Well, we get our information from the census and the American Community Survey, and that's as reliable as
By
they tell you.
addresses.
Well,
Okay.
no, it's by block group. It's not by address. So it's
Okay.
not that specific to where you know where that person lives and which dwelling. It's a general small.
Okay.
It's a small area. It's a neighborhood, but you know what the concentrations are within that neighborhood. Whether there's a high concentration, relatively speaking, of disabled, limiting, speaking elderly, that kind of
Right,
thing.
yep. Okay, Mike, so I guess if anyone has any questions, we'll move on to the UPWP review. Oh, no, transportation, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I missed it. The number 4, Transportation Improvement Program, draft, Mike. Sorry
Sure.
about that.
And on page 51 of your packet is a table of funds. You'll see that our Nantucket target for 2021. I'm sorry, this is 2025. Excuse me. Anyway, our targets fluctuate between $400,000 and $500,000 each year. What you should be aware of is that right now we have one project that's been initiated and under review by Mass DOT. That's the roundabout at Bartlett and Surfside Road. That's eligible for programming at this point. We're not programming it at that point because the guidance is to hold back a little bit on that project. There is a Safe Routes to School project that I mentioned earlier that's being included in the statewide tip, but not in our regional tip. So we do have one project going. But I provided a list on page 52 of other projects that could be eligible for federal funding. One would be the Milestone Rotary reconstruction. That could be a TIP eligible project. The Orange Street improvements for the bike lanes from Spruce Street to the Rotary. VHB is the designer of record, and their scope is there to prepare the initiation paperwork to have that potentially be a federal state funded TIP project. And the Four Corners project, obviously, that's obviously something that can be programmed in when that's mature enough to actually program it for construction. So there's really nothing that's going to be programmed in this TIP cycle this year, but next year and in future years there could be, and this would be the list of projects you would pull from. And there are proposed FY federal year dates to include those in. Just so you know, it shows Four Corners as 2050. That's the out year option for selecting a year. Probably wouldn't. Who's kidding who it might be 2050 by the time that's built.
That would be quick, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, okay.
But that gives you an idea of what you're looking at as far as TIP eligible projects in the near future.
Can I ask
Yes,
a
go
question?
ahead, Chris.
Just a question. So when you look at the budget for Nantucket, it's 442,000. How does that relate to, when your total program funds, is that total cost versus what this would pay for? Or is that,
Year to year.
how do those two numbers relate?
Sure. There's $200 million that's distributed throughout the entire Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Each of the 13 regions has rights to a portion of that. Our slice of the pie is 0.22% of that.
Yeah.
That's based off this is funny actually. It's actually 1990 census, 1990 employment, and 1990 road miles.
Yeah.
And by vote of other regions in the state, that hasn't changed as we've grown through the years. So that's still our apportionment. So our apportionment of that is, our target is 441,000. When I say that we're very dependent on discretionary funding and other sources, that's what I mean. We can't really fund too much with $400,000. So we're very dependent on other communities not being successful in advancing their projects. There being a windfall of state funding at the state level to advance a lot of projects. We're very dependent on those programs to go above and beyond what our apportionment is of those funds.
Wow. That's interesting.
Big difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why projects that are essentially shovel-ready with the right-of-way all set, the design finished, that's, if we have those projects, we're in a perfect opportunity to get those funded.
So the 441 isn't really factual. Like it's factual in the two thing that you just said with the 350, the 13 agencies, regions, but we really get more than that depending on timing, readiness.
Yeah, we're very dependent on that for just doing one project. You'll see that Boston has $86
Okay.
million. They can do multiple projects with that.
Yeah.
So it's not it's a different dynamic.
This is interesting. I
Yeah.
didn't, all these years, Mike, I didn't really know that from that perspective.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, Wendy.
I'm just curious, like what was the rationale to move it to the 1990 numbers? And like, isn't that part of like
Who
this
knows
commission
how
for
to
the
answer
future
that?
of transportation? It should be part of their report to recommend updating this.
Boston and I believe
holding it
Springfield,
up.
the Pioneer Valley region would be greatly impacted if we made those adjustments.
Because they
We
had
would
declining
actually-
populations?
I'm sorry?
They have
Because
more.
of their declining?
Exactly. Or we've grown relatively more than
mean,
they
I thought-
have relatively. So
Boston's
it's,
grown.
Oh, I thought the other way around. Boston has more people now.
Yeah.
Has to.
it's not a
Can't even move.
population, it's a ratio of the growth in population.
Oh, okay.
And and there's a few regions that have grown at a greater percentage than some other regions. You know, our target wouldn't increase too much. We'd go from 400,000 to say 800,000. But the sad truth is that 800,000 still isn't enough to get one project done. But you've basically taken away, say, 3
Somebody else.
projects from Boston.
So it's better to let it shuffle its own self out and leave in those, the 1990, I know that sounds crazy, doesn't it, Wendy? That's
Yes, it
30
does.
years ago. I mean, okay. But I see what they're saying. We haven't touched the excise tax since it started in 1981. So there is truth to some of these things. It makes sense.
It's their,
But
it's their political
It's
self-interest.
a political way
It's their
to
self-interest that they're protecting. They're not
No.
protecting our self-interest.
No, but they're protecting, I think it's coming out in the wash somehow. We still get funding, we're just not gonna adjust it to make that number bigger, to make somebody else's smaller, just to get the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kinda think that that's what they're doing, at least it seems like it.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate with discretion, having projects like the in-town bike.
I was just gonna say, how'd we do Cliff? I thought we added up different
Same,
years.
same. That was statewide CMAQ that we got access to because that project was ready to go. They found
Okay.
money somewhere else to make that happen.
So
And we've been
Andrew-
very successful
So
with
what
that.
Andrew's saying is correct. If you have everything ready to go, it sort of gets you up to the front of the line, even if you don't have the money in your region.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good information, Mike. It's taken 18 years and 15 for me to know this. This is unbelievable.
Better late than never. Huh?
16 years, actually.
Aren't you glad I asked?
I can't believe it. I'm glad you asked that question, Fritz. I really didn't know anything. I can't
People in
believe
4
that.
miles.
Matt's shaking his
People,
head.
employees.
How did
and-
he
and
not know this?
Public roadways.
So, what do you need from us on this one, Mike, now?
Nothing. Just be aware that the tip needs to be developed before June. That's I believe in the report that I provided to you. The tip needs to be a draft needs to be out for public advertising in May, and then finalized and approved in June. Not sure who's going to do that for you, but
But Milestone,
There's
even
really
though
no
you
project
have
to
it written
program, so-
down,
sorry?
even though you have Milestone on this list, that's really not ours. You're just showing it.
I'm
information.
showing it because we don't have it finalized yet
Yeah.
of how to actually fund that, whether we'd use regional target or state target for that. So
Yeah.
I'm putting it on the list as something you should be aware of and have it
Yeah.
on your radar as something that's eligible for federal and state funding.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so anyone else have any questions? We'll move on to the UPWP Part 2,
Sure.
whatever you
and-
want to call it.
Yep, and on page 54 is the statewide budget. I've highlighted the Nantucket budget. This past year, we had $275,000 available for transportation planning program that covers salaries and operating costs, and provided some budget for professional services and other expenses such as travel and equipment. That amount's actually going down this next year to $273,000. Due to just less funds are available at the state level. Same with the tip, that you should be aware that this document needs to be finalized in draft form and advertised for public review in May 2020, and then approved in June 2020 at your future meetings. There should be a discussion of what tasks to include and what studies to invest in at some point, and that's actually something you may want to talk about in the next agenda item, is something that potentially could be included in the UPWP. This is simply to make you aware of the process is about to start once again on this annual cycle, and to let you know what the budget is. It's actually going down, and that you should just be aware of that for your calendars for May and June. That's ultimately something you need to have developed and approved this summer.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Okay. So do you need action on this, or is this just information?
It's information.
Okay. Okay. Fritz, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next item, Mike. Oh, this is interesting. This is from the airport, that email the other day. I like
Correct.
this conversation.
And if it's all right, I'll lead you back to my report, because I really don't have anything to include in the packet on this. So on page 17.
This is a good conversation for this group right here.
Exactly.
I don't think we had it. I might have said something, one of my little rants, but I don't know how far I went. Because it was a while ago when I brought this up, if I did bring it up.
Sure.
Very interesting little change in Nantucket's.
Okay. So
Whatever.
just to lead everybody to where they can probably find a narrative on this, it's item 6 in the on page 17. Just so you know, to what you said, there have been scuttlebutts about travel activity using the airport, traveling to the Cape and Martha's Vineyard. The airport has suggested that they're willing to participate in a future study to try to quantify and better understand this travel trend to the Cape and Martha's Vineyard through the Nantucket Memorial Airport. The airport does. It's probably best that they not lead this effort, and since it includes a number of stakeholders, one being the Steamship Authority, the NRTA, and other entities such as the Chamber of Commerce and the such. The airport's willing to participate financially to help fund this study, but the UPWP could also be a good source of funds for this as well. The airport did a similar study in the past. It was in the neighborhood of $25,000 for to justify service to Philadelphia and the Philadelphia airport, using this type of analysis of people who come here and where they're coming from. So using that same level of budgeting, we could potentially use UPWP funds to fund this endeavor, use the NPDC as the forum to actually discuss this with airport officials, with ferry officials, and local agencies like Chambers of Commerce.
Yep.
So, and it also aligns with goals of the long-range transportation plan for travel to the mainland and making those services more robust.
Yep.
So what is it that they're proposing? Is it, are you studying people going through this airport to get elsewhere, or what's the,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
that's the, okay.
I think it's to quantify those trends, that if people are flying to Nantucket, because we are more of a regional hub now with JetBlue, United,
Green
and all the rest of the
zone.
airlines, flying to Nantucket and
Yep.
then taking a ferry. We have good inter-island service now. Now I can talk about this. Going to the
Yep.
vineyard. So a lot of times when people want to get to the vineyard, they'll fly to Nantucket. They figured this out. Fly to Nantucket and then take the ferry over to the vineyard because it's cheaper and easier. Going to the Cape because it's cheaper and easier to fly through Nantucket to get there.
It's when I found this out last summer, it was an accident. I was talking with Liz about some other issues, and all of a sudden she started telling me about it because I asked her, "How's the inter-island service going?" Because there's a lot of reasons why there's 3 trips a day. Kind of don't really need 3, but they had to kind of figure out how to get these boats all different directions and how to do it, and it ended up being 3. And she said, well, Nat, we have JetBlue and American Airlines and United are using Nantucket as a connector to get to the Cape or to the Vineyard. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? First thing I said. And it's good because it's no cars. They buy lunch. They're walking around town. They have to take a cab or Uber to town. They're probably buying some trinket at Four Winds or some other thing. And they got to come back. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's actually helping everybody in a kind of a way that doesn't really affect anyone. You don't even know what's happening. It's just happening by itself. These airlines don't. The American doesn't go to the Vineyard. I found that out. United doesn't go to the Vineyard, but JetBlue does. But they don't have as many flights, and it's not free to take these airlines to all these little airports. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So I think it's good, and it might help with some of the shuttle parking sort of thing too, to kind of figure some of that stuff out as well.
The big potential for this is extending the season for this air service more further into the shoulder, and perhaps even to cover the holidays if people want to go to the Hyannis for stroll, or somewhere like the Chatham for their stroll. They'd fly here, so it's better for our economy as well, because then we could attract more for our stroll. And through air, rather than everybody being disappointed that the storm came in and the boats are canceled. And they can't go home. At least you have the airport to. And
it's good for them. They need a shot in the arm. Fast boats, kill the airport, but it's not really that. It's just natural progression. But this is good. I mean, I hope everyone agrees. I think this is something that is almost an accidental good thing.
And you said it. It's right now. It's a scuttlebutt. It's a rumor. Nobody really knows if this is actually happening or not. This is to quantify it, demonstrate those numbers to the airlines, show them that this is happening, so it becomes an attractive market.
And the other issue that I was at somebody's house on Palmview Drive before I found out about this. I was out at this lady's house, and she had 2 cars, Massachusetts plates. One of them had a Nantucket plate. And I asked her, I said, so how often do you take the boat? Because there was only 2 cars, and I could tell they were Nantucket cars. You can tell by just looking at them. She goes, we don't take the boat anymore. We fly here for the summer. So they're not even going on the boat. Now, this is another whole conversation about there's less cars coming on the boat for the big money now. So it's like government has to, like Flint used to say, how are we going to make up the difference? Like they need to make up that revenue somewhere. And I laugh because now people are bringing a car one time, parking it in their garage, registering it here, paying the general fund with excise taxes, and they're not going on the boat anymore, though. So now the boat is losing, like the airport lost in another way. And now the airport's getting the same person that would have taken their car here, and now they're just flying and getting in their car that's already here. It's amazing, Mike. So I divest now. Whoever wants to comment, I'm just saying this is amazing.
I have
go ahead.
I've been in a bit of a back and forth with the airport. I made a comment and they corrected it, and I corrected them, and we went back and forth a couple times. A couple of the things that are happening, I think, are sort of. I got a buddy who's trying to come 4th of July. The lowest ticket he can get right now, round trip, over that weekend for his son from New York, is over $1,000. 6 months out, it's $1,000, and the flights only come when there's a lot of people here, and then they cancel them. And so what used to be sort of on-demand regular service that was used by workers and islanders and everybody has now turned into sort of more service at peak areas, and then they take them away. So that was sort of what I was talking about, and so we went back and forth a little bit about that. And I think coming from other places is great, but having it on a regular basis that we can count on, we've got to find a way to build it up so that it's on a regular basis. I don't know what that is.
What do you mean by regular? I don't know.
Well, regular as in it isn't just for June and July and August, and then we don't have any service. If you're trying to fly to New York, I was trying to get back through New York one time, and the planes never went. from New York. There was only 2 of us on, so they'd cancel it. They canceled it 3 days in a row. I had to I took a train to Boston and came home. The planes are only flying sometimes now when it makes, when they make money to fly. It's not like the steamship. You run when you have to run.
Yeah.
But
But
they're
not running more boats when there's nobody on them either.
No, exactly.
So let's try to,
well, and and you may cancel it if there's only 3
Yeah.
cars on it.
Yeah.
Easier than you would if it were 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
But my point is, I think at the airport, I don't know the answer to it. They said that they're doing certain things to try to encourage them to service more year-round, et cetera. But I think I think we need to be asking for that at least. Sort of asking for, and I don't know the answer, but cover how do you encourage the flights so that it's helps all of us on a regular basis?
The biggest issue I see happening is Columbus Day is a big jump to Thanksgiving from Columbus Day.
Yeah.
So the weddings and Thanksgiving is the new stroll. It's sort of a tune-up for stroll. It's like half the people that are here for stroll are here at Thanksgiving. It's amazing. There's a lot of people here at Thanksgiving now. And I think that had something to do with Hurricane Sandy a little bit, with people had houses and they had no place to go and they came here and all of a sudden everybody's coming here. But I think they'll figure it out, Matt. I mean, it might not be worth JetBlue to keep all their stuff. They got people living in houses. I mean, it's not like they just appear. They have people that are staffed, computers, those stupid things that push the plane. They take them back on the boat. You know what I mean? There's a lot of weird stuff that they bring it back and forth.
No, but my point is, how does the airport incentivize service for? Is there a way for the airport to incentivize regular service for all Nantucket people? And not just not. I know it's never going to go back to what it used to be.
But
when when the last flight is 5 at night, there's some weird things going on now.
Yeah.
That I just and they're aware of it. Art will talk to me and say, "Yeah, we're trying to do that. I agree with you. We're working on it." But it's pretty interesting.
I think they need to start with the chamber and other event people to understand, what makes sense, and they need to make money on employment fees or whatever that it means. So, I mean, I just think this is interesting. I think this is something that's just a great conversation. I don't want to get into, nitty-gritty stuff.
I agree with
it's
this.
just, I think it's just, when we were kids, Matt, what did we used to do? Parents used to take us out to what's now Monahans Road. It used to be a dirt road, went all the way to the beach. And we'd sit there on the ice cream cone and watch Northeast Airlines smoke the whole runway up with smoke to take off one time.
The Yellowbirds.
The Yellowbirds. And that's what we did. That was like this big deal. You know what I mean? Then we didn't have any jets at all. We had them stupid Air New England planes. Remember those? And then now we're back to no planes and all jets. It's like, who knows? It's just the way it is.
It is, but if you could, if you were waving a magic wand, if you could find a way to influence travel and stays and things, it would be, if it were up to me, I would be more steady from
9 months.
Or 6 months or 5 months. But if you look at the numbers now, they spike because we have more homes, as more people can be here. They spike double or triple what they did 20 years ago, and so our peaks are a lot crazier. It's harder to staff. It's harder for the businesses, and then they go down again. It's a trend that's been just getting worse every year. And I think it's better when it was more steady. It was easier to staff. It was easier to house people. All the different things we're dealing with, and just bringing big planes and dumping them every Friday and taking them every Sunday, and having 2 planes, one coming and one leaving, isn't necessarily to the best interest of the island businesses. That's what I'm trying to say. And we're ED and C. We've got economic in there somewhere. So
Yeah, I mean, this happened by itself. Go ahead, John.
This concept or idea, it reminds me of a trip I had last year from France. We had a stopover in Portugal, and instead of just a layover for a couple of hours, there was an incentive to stay there overnight. So there were packages and maybe working with the Chamber of Commerce or something, but we stayed over 24 hours. So we got to see Lisbon that we didn't have any plans to see. We were able to stay in a hotel. We were able to buy lunch, buy dinner, and spend a couple of gifts, touristy gifts. So that idea of maybe using this as a little hub, maybe not just to stay here for 2 hours and leave without spending any money, to incorporate it into a
that's
little
spending money.
stayover.
That's spending money.
It has the potential to become more steady, like Matt's trying to do over the course of the entire year instead of just the peak season. So.
I think that they'll figure it out. I think it'll be Daffodil. I don't want to say Christmas. Maybe definitely Thanksgiving is probably the target. I don't know about in Stroll's the next weekend. I don't think Christmas would be one. But how long is JetBlue fly now? I don't even know. It's got to be 5 to 6.
After Columbus Day, they shut down.
So when do they start up though? Is it April or is it May?
May. I think it's May.
Middle of May.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they, at one point,
So they got a couple more months they could plug in.
well, in a while ago, they used to. I'm going back 10 or 15 years. There was regular service through most of the year. You'd get a flight or two to New York. And
Not JetBlue.
Not
Cape,
not
No,
bigger plane.
who was
No.
it? It was
well, Cape Air, but they were
No.
doing it. But there was another one.
United. There we go. Thank
Was
you.
there, Leslie?
I
Yeah.
think it was the Newark.
Really?
Colgan or something.
Colgan
Air was
something.
after.
Newark.
United was prior, and then
Okay.
Colgan was after.
Right.
And that was that worked. That was a really good. You could go opposite. That was a really good service. And I think what their airlines seem to be picking off right now are the peaks and leaving the rest. And is there any way to? I don't know how to do that, but is there any way to incentivize to have more of that?
Well-
I flew one time for United out to Telluride, Colorado. I was skiing at noon from here. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy that the fast boats and the planes have found a way to sort of
Symbiotic.
marry each other somehow, because that inter-island service needs to work for them because it's so complicated. They're losing money with it, but there is a market for it. It's just not a lot of people. And I think it's good for the vineyard. Think about what the vineyard's getting out of this. They're getting their person over there without a car too, but at the same time, they don't have the ability to have their airport be a hub like we do for whatever reason that is. I think it's because it's only 7 miles from Woods Hole, and so many people travel by boat. It's so cheap that it's different there. But we're different here. People don't want to leave their car sitting at the boat for 2 days to get here in the summer. Once they get it to Nantucket, it stays in their garage. They don't have to bring a car anymore. It's amazing, really. So, Wendy, what do you got? We got to figure out how to get them out to the brewery between fast ferries. How do we do that?
Put a little landing strip.
They get here early enough.
Van at the airport.
I don't think it'll
Can you serve drinks early for those people?
Yeah, you need a few more people in Fagawi, don't you think?
I mean, it's amazing. We have electric bikes at the airport to go to the brewery and then back to the boat. I don't know.
Well, they may
God.
not get back on the electric
Well,
bike.
I mean, I will say, like, Matt's point about business and, the bookstores are a fraction of what they used to be, and it's a painful reality, so, I mean, it's nice that the
That's
bookstore is
online.
busy, but
But this will help the walking around people buying stuff. I think that one of the biggest problems they probably have is storing their luggage because of 9/11, and you can't just put it anywhere. So they got to walk around with suitcases.
business opportunity.
That's complicated. There got to be some way to fix that.
That was a big part of the valet business, was they were luggage storage the last
Yeah.
couple of summers, and that
So
was
so that can be part of the
losing their spot
Act
made it more
Eats or
difficult.
something.
Yeah.
So Mike,
I think the
I
direction
wish
we'd
you were
like from the-
staying. We could talk about this for the next 5 years. This is a really cool topic, I think. I just couldn't believe it when she told me last summer. I had no clue.
No, I don't
about
think
this.
anybody really did, but it's a fascinating thing and it'd be really helpful to quantify. Does this sound like something that you would want to
Highline's
include
got
as a task in the UPWP for
I
next
think we
year?
should try to find out. I think we should have.
Highline rep.
I think we should find a way to. I don't know how they can do it. The Highline would participate. There's no, find out. I'm sure they would. Steamship would if they could find out. How do you know that they're a connecting flight from JetBlue though?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're going to have to figure that out. They'll probably have to have some kind of signage or some kind of,
Well, you just need to advertise
Something.
how you do it,
Yeah.
When you're flying to Nantucket, you take the Nada bus to the
No,
Harbor and
they're
go to
asking
Virginia.
about how many people are on this boat that came off JetBlue today, that kind of thing. I think that's what they want to know, right, Mike?
Exactly.
Like,
And you
if
can
there's
get that a
50
number of
people on
different
the boat,
ways
how many,
through-
yeah.
I think what they did for the Philadelphia service, they used mobility data for, to see how many people originated in Philadelphia, but ultimately within a day or two ended up on Nantucket. There's anecdotal information, there's surveying people, talking to cabs, airport managers, ferry staff. You can balance the anecdotal evidence versus the mobility hard data, data to do more of a scientific approach and just come at it a few different directions. And that should be enough to demonstrate that there is a dynamic there, that it's not just rumor, it's actually happening, and there's a fairly confident number of how many people are doing it. And that's what you'd provide to the airlines to justify providing this additional service.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think the Nantucket Data Project used mobility data. They knew where people came from, what time they landed, which house they drove to. They don't know your name, but they're tracking down to that level. And so, they could be, there's something like that they could do.
Yeah, balance that with a number of different
Yeah,
methods.
they could find everyone that
yeah.
came in on, flights from wherever and left on a boat within so many hours. Because they know how fast you're going and where you're going. It's amazing. And I don't know if it would be 25,000, it might be.
That's what the Philadelphia study was. Yeah. I don't think it'd triple or quadruple or anything, but.
Okay, so with that interesting conversation, Judith and Leslie, you guys okay back there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're doing great.
No, I'm sorry, I'm just,
They've gone to cocktail hour.
I didn't hear anything, I kind of,
Nat,
yes, Judith,
Nat, can I just one observation?
yes,
I hope that when they do this study, part of what's going on is keeping with what Matt said, is that Cape Air has hiked prices so much during non-peak summer that it costs as much to go to Boston and back, or more than it costs to go from Boston to California. And I just
always
think
been
that
that way.
there's
That's a
people
Cessna.
who would, especially if we try to build the economy for more people that can use advanced telecommuting or things like that, who have to come and go for business. The fact that Cape Air is so thin and doesn't often what Matt said in terms of do they run, are they on time, are they dependable, all the rest of that, that's part of the picture too. So I hope it isn't just about the big airlines, because I think Matt is right that there's needs for people. Last time I was on Cape Air, and the time before that, there was someone coming back from medical treatment with his wife, and his wife was in a wheelchair and clearly had been having some kind of treatment or things like that. And with the prices as they are, and then with the difficulty of doing Ferry plus bus or something like that, I think for those who need medical help in Boston or things like that, that's a serious burden. And with the prices as they are, it's as if they don't want the business, and I don't understand that.
yeah. I'm sure that has to do with the size of those planes and the cost. I mean, it's a kind of probably a whole bunch of dynamics involved with that. But, Judith, I agree with what you're saying. I just,
There's a study,
yeah.
it needs.
They should talk about it. I know what you mean.
Summer tourism, yeah.
Like, JetBlue isn't
The
gonna,
other thing is I don't want
Whoa.
to make a comment about Cape Air. The other thing that they did is they took away those commuter books, which used to at least let you get locked into a 150 fare. And
Yeah.
now they changed the fare, that there's 9 seats. If there's all 9 seats, then you might get a 150 fare. But if you get the 7th or the 8th or the 9th seat, it's up to 250.
yeah.
So they rotate the price. That's what they do. And I think that really discourages a lot of people, and yet some people really need the speed of quick travel to Boston rather than
Yeah.
go bus.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it's like they're punishing their customers because they have so many other airports that they're servicing with their planes.
Oh, you mean the small ones are going to regional airports? Yeah. No, that's true.
There's so
Yeah.
many airports they don't consider us. So
you could buy a round trip ticket, Boston, Nantucket, and it's close to $450 if you're the 9th person to buy the ticket.
Right.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
The reason for that, those were all,
Oh, they're killing it.
they were highly subsidized to start, and FAA pays money for rural airlines, rural airports. There was a lot of subsidy.
The landing fee stuff.
Yeah, landing fee, not even landing fees, they'll pay you. So they'll run empty planes back and forth because they get paid for them. And so, and then at a certain point, after so many years, I don't have exact details, but after so many years, then it's
Oh,
cut.
then that makes sense. That explains
Then it's cut. That's why you'll have stuff going to Lebanon or, east whatever up in upstate New York. You say, who's
So
going
those
there?
crazy weird airports versus
It's the FAA trying to grow, more
Yeah.
more airports, and so they'll, they've started
So they're subsidizing it.
they subsidize it, and then I think that when the subsidy goes away, it changes. I think probably when our subsidy went away, we were using it so strongly that it was cheap for a while, and now it isn't. Is more what I'm guessing, but.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
on
it's
the
just not affordable
and then
anymore.
and then on the back end of this, JetBlue can charge a lot to come here from DC in the summer, and we get to go the other way cheap. So it's like I mean, we can't have everything. I don't know what the answer is, but I know there's not going to be a jet going to Hyannis from Nantucket. That's the catch. So there's all these different things. I mean, there could be. I've had that conversation with people. Why don't you bring back the early fast ferry? And this is a good example. Well, because there'll be 3 people on it. But those 3, but to Judith's point, those 3 people might get to an appointment faster. But that costs like $2,000 to do that. So we have the Nantucket rate in Hyannis. You got to go at night. There just isn't a perfect way to get away early in the morning and without staying overnight. You know what I mean? The cheap way. It's just. I mean, it's complicated. So anyway, thank you for all that. That's good local conversation. So Mike, is there a way that you could? I mean, I know you're leaving, but the procedure with them, whoever's going to be doing this, is this through the airport commission to sort of
No.
take
Their
this?
ask was that the NPDC kind of lead.
Oh, okay,
in this
good.
endeavor, because there's so many stakeholders
And so-
involved.
so-
that it's best that this body kind of.
I think it would
serves.
be important to have airline. I don't know how you do it. You can't get like CEOs to come to our little meeting here in Nantucket, but somebody
We have
that
people in charge of our
somebody
region.
that knows the dynamics, that some of the stuff that Matt's talking about, why these things work. P&B bus used to get 5% subsidy. They don't get it anymore. I mean, there's all sorts of weird stuff out there like that he's talking about that nobody knows these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Derek Schuster at the DOT, Mass DOT is more than just highways. They actually have Mass Aeronautics underneath their umbrella.
Oh, okay.
This is something that is highly interesting to him and to DOT. So I think that's probably, we might get a lot of participation is through the state as well, to not only help fund this through the UPWP, but maybe give you some of the other technical expertise that you might need to.
And you know
to
what that
organize
does?
this.
You know what something like that would do? Answer people's questions without them having 200 questions. Just answer them in one sort of, this is why this is happening. This is why Cape Air can't go to Boston for $80 anymore. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, all right. So anyway, so the next item is NRTA plan, Mike.
Yes, and this is informational, and then you should know that the NRTA through Mass DOT's consultant AECom is assisting with the update of their transit plan. The document is used to evaluate service trends and asset conditions, and to recommend potential capital and service improvements. On page 76, there's a schedule for what AECom has proposed for updating this plan. It's to be finished by the end of the summer in September, but there's an outreach period that there'll be in April. They'll be on islands to get public input on what do you think of the existing NRTA service. They're planning on being at the Daffodil event to have teams of surveyors to ask people that question. So this is more just informational and to put it on your radar to let you know that there's going to be an opportunity to participate and to suggest one, better understand the existing service and how it operates and how well it's used, but also you can make your recommendations or suggestions for how you think the system could work better for you or for other people that you know.
Right, okay. Does anyone have any questions? Is this something that you need action on? Is this just, this is informational too?
This is informational.
For the most part.
I've looked over the goals that they had for the study. They mirror, based on suggestions by staff, they mirror the long-range transportation plan, so there's nothing really new that would be presented to you.
Yeah.
I think you should just be aware of the project schedule and the opportunity to comment.
Okay. Matt, you have anything? I heard something the other night was about, they're gonna get a couple new buses because of something, but I wasn't listening to the meeting 100% when Paula was talking about that. I don't know what it was
Well, I
about,
think she's trying
but
to.
something like that.
That she's gonna try to add service. We spent money to add service, Michael, know the details.
And it gives them the opportunity to get new buses for
No, I
something,
don't know if
or
we'll have
no?
it this year, but they're gonna
Okay.
add one bus on the airport route and stop either side of the.
No, I know about that. Yeah. I'm talking about
It's the
funding for
frequency.
something.
I think the board had wanted higher frequency, like 10 or 15-minute frequency instead of 20 minutes. And to do that, you needed to actually add more buses to the system. And there's just not the buses to add to the system.
We
Yeah.
don't have the time or the money to put them in
Yeah.
by summer.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have anything? John, Wendy, you good? Sorry, not looking your way enough. Okay, so we'll move on to safety performance measures. Mike, what do we got? What is this about here? What page is this on?
You do this annually. This is on page 70, on page 80. It starts. This is something you've done this time every year. The state has certain
Oh.
performance measures on safety, such as fatalities and crash rates that they give regions the opportunity to either develop their own, or the regions can accept DOT's performance measures as a standard to track into the future. That's what we've done the 3 past years. So I think we keep with that same trend of accepting their standards and going forward. I really don't know much detail about what's provided in the back on page 80. Derek Schuster couldn't be available to give this presentation. He's away. But since we have accepted it in the past, staff recommends that the NPDC take action to endorse Mass DOT's calendar year 2020 safety performance measures, and that would keep us in conformance with federal and state law.
Okay, so Mike, basically what we're doing is we're, improving their technical way of calculating this.
Exactly. You're looking into the future. You think that, so many fatalities, you don't really want to go over that. If you do, then it's a broader conversation. But if you stay under that, then obviously the investments you make in safety improvement projects and all the rest of it, you're actually achieving your goals. So if you look at a lot of the trend lines in these charts, they're sloped down. You want to see the fatality rates go down, the crash rates to go down. This is a way to track that. And to ensure that you are achieving your goals and that your investments are doing what you think that they should be doing.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, Matt?
If you notice, they run them in 5-year bands, and that's so it doesn't have a spike. If you did a
Yeah.
1-year band
It would
and
look-
you'd have a big
Yeah.
spike. So they're doing it in 5-year bands to
Spread it out.
and even those out, which is, and we're basically just accepting the state's numbers for their.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We could develop our own, but quite honestly, we don't really have traffic fatalities very
Right.
often.
I didn't
at
want to
all.
say it like that, but I know what you mean. We don't have enough to have an average
Do they
to
break it
have
down?
anything
You shouldn't
to
have
show.
one. You shouldn't have one. That's the whole.
Yeah.
You might hear this thing, Vision Zero, which
Yeah.
is we don't want any deaths at all. So that's your
Yeah.
standard is 0. But the reality is, and there may be 1 or 2, and throughout the state,
We
there's
probably
some-
help the state.
You want to see the
go
trend
down.
go down.
Do we help their numbers go down?
Up to total.
I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know how it works. I mean, is this the whole state? Is this just?
Well, if there's one, then they're not helping anything at all.
No,
But,
no.
yeah,
Our average is so low. Does it make
Yeah.
other communities' averages lower because we're lower than them? That's what I'm saying.
it probably doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
It's,
All right.
it's this 500, 550 a year.
Yeah.
We're not talking, or 550 over that 5-year average.
Anyway, so are we okay?
We have to accept.
Take a vote.
Yeah, we need a motion to accept the,
Yeah, so I'll accept the motion to
moved.
approve this.
Second.
Matt and Fritz,
Yeah, and,
Matt Fee, yes.
yeah. Bert?
I'm just saying
No,
the motion was.
Chris
Yes.
got in ahead of me.
Bert, did you make the motion?
No,
I
no,
did.
Matt made the
Matt made
motion,
it.
you
Right.
seconded.
But you seconded
Yeah.
ahead of me, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Matt and Fritz, Eleanor. Okay? So Bert, roll call, you got an aye there, Bert?
Aye.
Matt voted aye
Rich
already.
McClure, aye.
John Trudell, aye.
Wendy Hudson, aye.
Judith,
Aye.
Leslie,
Leslie, aye.
and chair votes aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Eleanor, thank you. The town meeting articles? No, wait a minute. Oh, no, sorry. What am I doing? Yeah, safety, oh, no, census, oh, Taylor, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my glasses, and I hate to say it, I need my glasses a little more now than I used to. So I gotta keep remembering. I got 4 pairs of readers, but I don't have any in my truck, so, in my van. So, so, yes, Taylor, so you, go ahead, Andrew, explain to me what we're doing here.
So, as you know, we have a census count committee that's been active. We have an administrator now, Mark Burke, who's been hired, is doing a fantastic job.
Yep.
One of our members is leaving, Tom Dixon,
Yeah,
and Taylor is recently hired as our human services director.
Yep.
So she's a natural to step forward and take his position at the time that he leaves. So
Great.
we would like you to appoint Taylor to replace Tom when his departure becomes official.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
that's it, Bert? You don't wanna say hi to Taylor, do you know who she is?
I work with Taylor all the time.
Okay,
On the
excellent.
contract review committee.
All right, very good.
I'm happy to give a short bio.
No, that's great. We appreciate what you do. These little positions matter, and they're confusing. I forget half of them, but this is great, and we appreciate it very much. So Bert made a motion. Is there a
Motion to appoint
second?
Taylor.
Second.
Matt, we'll start with you.
Matt Fee, aye.
Bert Johnson, aye.
Rich McClure, aye.
John Trudell, aye.
Wendy Hudson, aye.
Judith? Hi, Judith. Leslie? And chair, and the chair votes aye, unanimous. Taylor, thank you for everything you're doing, by the way, on the other committee that I'm on that I
Happy to be there.
don't know what to say about anymore. Okay, thank you.
Well, I accept.
So, town meeting review of articles, Andrew, I know we've already done this, and Eleanor's got a nice list of all the votes and the conversation and the minutes.
Right, and on page 84 is the draft comments that you have all discussed.
Yep.
Leslie has prepared those. And then we also added an update to where we are with the finance committee on some of these. So again, these are here for you to review if you have any additions or things you want to discuss about these.
Yeah. Okay, so they went with our recommendation, even though we're not on the warrant, I understand that, but you,
Well, I think
They
this
knew.
will be helpful. The selectmen have not adopted their comments yet.
okay,
Finance committee is wrapping up.
I mean, I think we're March 3rd, I think, is when we're gonna talk about it. Maybe it's the week after, but
To develop your final.
Yeah, I
comments,
think so.
If you're going to comment.
yeah.
So, yes,
and the historic buildings hasn't been a decision yet?
not yet.
Okay. Well, that's good. So, does anyone have any questions? Andrew, do you have more you want to talk about, or are you okay? Okay. These are the commission ones, so it's staying focused on the commission ones.
These are commission, and these do not carry, as you know, the Finance Committee on non-zoning articles, their motion is the lead
Yes.
motion.
Yep.
On zoning articles, the planning board's motions are the lead motion.
Right.
So, planning board is, we're done. Finalized, I think, comments, everything, we're finished. The finance committee, I think, has a few outstanding issues, but they supported the planning board except for on the pool article, which Judith and Fritz and staff was there. They did not, I guess they were not open to reconsidering their variance with the planning board, and as you know, that is somewhat rare that they take an opposing position like that. So, but we tried.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And can you just, looking at Article 36, what was that article? Was that the one about, is that the Burton Balkine one? Or is that a different one? Was that the one regarding the little?
It was Clifford Williams.
Oh, okay. That wasn't the one about, came from the guy in Nantucket, right? What's his name? No, what's the guy's name? White. What's his name? The guy
White.
Scott White.
Scott White.
That wasn't
Scott White.
Yeah, I got it. I couldn't think of his first name, Leslie. Is that article about that issue, or is this a different article?
This is related to that.
It is.
There's two opinions that have been issued by town council
Yep.
already.
Yep.
There's, I guess, an anonymous submission by law firm of Mintz that for anonymous property owners that came in. I know town council has looked at, has been looking at some of the individual title. There's, I think, about 800 parcels, privately held parcels that are oceanfront. A significant amount of those are land court. So,
Yep.
there's there could be additional investigation to those, but FinCom had the FinCom had voted not to adopt. I don't know, again, the selectmen had a different opinion.
I don't know. We're going to talk about in executive session, I think we're going to talk about sort of the whole process. I mean, my take on it is they're looking at it strictly from state law. They're looking at it strictly from, one thing, and they aren't answering sort of the historical. And we may have to have special counsel to help figure that out at some point. And the idea originally, One Big Beach, was we looked at it one way, the state looked at it other. We were saying, let's do One Big Beach and have this done cooperatively over time. And it hasn't happened quite that way. We haven't done it quite that way. And so it's starting to bubble up again. So we're saying and you talk to historians, you talk to longtime Islanders, and they'll cite cases and things like cases and various things that we're different than the rest of the state. The rest of the state, you can't take seaweed. Nantucket, you can take seaweed. The rest of the state, you can't do this. Here you can. We've won the case on the ponds. So the old Islanders will cite all that. Our law firm doesn't even know those cases yet. So I think there's work that we still need to do if we're going to have that case. So.
Nah, I totally get, and I didn't bring this up to get into that, but
that's what this is about.
I know. I meant the whole thing. Like, I got arrested in 1980 for driving on the beach on the Cape because I'm from Nantucket, and I just thought I could just drive on the beach. It's the truth. I got put in jail for one night with a friend of mine driving on the beach.
What town?
And it was on the Cape. A friend of mine I went to high school with has a house there, and I took my Ford pickup on the beach, thought I was in Nantucket. I wasn't inebriated either. I thought it was normal.
This explains a lot now.
No, but this is the point. That what I'm getting to is what Matt is sort of talking about. In Nantucket, we sort of make our own rules, and when land was worth nothing, no one really cared. And in the real world, 40 years ago, you couldn't go on the beach, right across the pond.
No. I lived in Chatham, had a house on the outer beach. You had to get a permit.
No, but I'm just saying it wasn't
It's
like
here.
it wasn't like here though. then, you know what I mean? Like, it was complicated then. In Nantucket in 1980, you could do whatever you wanted. You know what I mean, Barrett? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I used to drive around the island.
Of course you did. I did the same
Oh, in the
thing.
wintertime.
You had to bring an extra can of gas, though.
Yeah.
If you started in Nantucket, you'd run out of gas.
Model A buggies driving down
So,
the beach.
so the thing is that when town council, I think, I understand where you're going. They're looking at things from a sort of other place, but I want this conversation, as what happened last night at your meeting with Low Beach, this whole issue of access, takings, friendly, well, we're not getting this, we should get that, et cetera. We've got to, because there's going to be more talk about it now because of what happened last night, Matt. And I'm being wicked honest with you. We got to get this all out there and say, look, we're doing great. We're getting what we can. There's only been one Scott White right now. Okay, I'm not saying there couldn't be more. But compared to what could be going on, what used to happen with the parties at Surfside, Matacasham Jam and the Wapatula and the one on Crew 2, we don't have any of that anymore compared to what we used to. I mean, it is unbelievable what we used to be able to do here. So I think that the way that the process has been going to get the easements in the areas that we need to, okay, has worked, and it hasn't been a lawsuit. So we're doing pretty good ourselves. Sometimes doing things our own way is better than trying to do it the complicated way. You know what I mean? So anyway, so go ahead, Andrew. I just wanted to say that because it's important.
Remind you though that, again, a town meeting article is not, we're not voting concepts
Right.
and feel good things. We're voting articles that do something. So we do have to pay attention to what some of these articles are requesting.
Yeah,
And some of this, I think, can be accomplished without an article passing.
that's what I'm talking
which
about.
I think is
Yeah.
probably some of the.
Within the
topics
existing framework of what we've set up with these, with how we've been making it work.
I will
So-
tell you that the One Big Beach easements that we have put in place, I mean, you know, again, those are shown on a plan, they're filed, you know, they go from the mean low water mark to the base of the coastal dune, which is how it's defined. And those move over time if the coastal dune is in fact.
They stay, in other words.
Stays and it's flexible, and I mean, again, we are gonna run out of those because those have been negotiated as part of, you know, paper streets and everything else. So
When we have leverage.
No, I know what he means by that. Yeah. No, that's true.
So we are
Yep.
gonna run out of those opportunities, and the situation in Nantucket is similar
No,
to,
yeah.
because there's nothing.
There's nothing to negotiate with him. There's no road going next to his house he doesn't
Well,
have.
but here,
you know what I mean?
But
I
the
know
original
that.
the original idea of the One Big Beach program was that people, that we would publicize it, and that people would do it for tax credits and do it willingly. And and what's happened is,
Thank you, Taylor. I know this is boring.
And I'm not saying anyone's done anything. I'm not saying anyone's done anything wrong, but that part of it hasn't really caught on for whatever reason. Attention, time. It would never going to, maybe anyway. Whatever. That hasn't caught on, but that doesn't mean that it might not or it isn't valuable. Scott White's situation was a result. I don't blame Scott. He was complaining for a number of years and didn't get anywhere. And he's complained, and that's a result of having no beach advisory committee anymore. They were the ones that they were the ones that were able to buffer and put in place no more driving on the beach. It was a committee that took a lot of heat for a number of years, but they sorted out the parties and the driving on the beach and all those other things. So it wasn't at the select board level, it wasn't at the staff level. They dealt with it and they brought the recommendations, but they smoothed over a lot of upset people at that time. So if we had had something like that in place, in my opinion, Scott would have had somewhere to go, and it might have got moved up the chain properly. It didn't. His only recourse was the police, and the police looked, and they don't understand some of the island things, and they did what they thought they should do, and it didn't work, so they did more, and they're setting a bad precedent, putting it right down into the water. So I think that was a combination of things, and so going forward, how do we ensure that doesn't happen? And Scott's biggest complaint is dogs.
Yeah.
If we just said no dogs on the beach, or, or your dogs have to be leashed, or if we had a beach advisory and we drew a map, some of this goes away. Yeah, these are dog
Yeah.
beaches and these aren't. Some of that goes away.
Yes.
I still have signs that I found in the old shack that used to be in Nantucket. When they tore that shack, they took that shack away that's right near Mr. Rogers' house.
Yep.
Okay.
I know exactly what
And
you're talking
in
about.
that shack is signs that are from the 60s, 70s, 80s until the mid-90s that say, no dogs on the beach, April 15th till Labor Day. That's how we live. Maybe a lot of people have forgotten. And if you go to most beaches on the East Coast, on the north part of our Cape Cod all the way up to Maine, there are no dogs allowed on public beaches in the summer. We have a gift to allow dogs on beaches.
I know exactly what building she's talking
I'm just
about.
saying. I'm just saying. During the summer, they said no dogs
Yeah.
on the beach.
Yep.
June, July, August, no dogs on the
And-
beaches. And so we allow dogs on the beach, and they're supposed to be on leashes, and they're not necessarily on leashes. So I'm not defending Scott,
Yep.
but I understand that that's what caused him to go off the deep end.
Yep.
And
No.
I think the real problem you got to look at, so you can put a Band-Aid on a cut all you want, but the real problem is the nuisance of dogs not being controlled, and we don't have enforcement.
And today's dog, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is. Lots of people have dogs
many of
now.
them.
There's a lot of dogs, and it's a different culture now with dogs than it used to be. And I see that, and now we know that because there's been a lot of controversy on the island anyway. But I just wanted to bring that up.
You should just say no
Didn't
dogs,
wanna-
July and August. They shouldn't go on the beach in July
Yeah.
and August. Let it be for the tourists and the locals. And
We
everybody
used to.
enjoy
We
the
also.
beach.
We also.
It's
We also.
fun anyway.
We also used to self-police, and that doesn't happen anymore. It's it's a little complicated
Or say dogs
now.
on the beach after 5 p.m. so they can go run. And no leash. Let them run. Let them go on the beach after 5.
Okay.
But all day long, when there's all these crowds of people, I don't know. I just get crazy about it because I see where the problem is. I see it.
I'm trying to get this discussed at the select board level before too long, so if there's some changes, we can implement them for the summer, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
People, I think, are ducking dogs. I don't, the dog hearings, no one wants to deal with it, but.
Yeah.
It's like evicting someone at
I
Christmas
know.
time.
So.
It's too bad because that's really what the root of the problem is.
Well, in that case, it is.
So.
Yep.
Okay. So we're good with these now. I think. Sorry, I extended things 20 more minutes, but so we don't have any more concerns, Andrew. Everything is done as far as this commission level. Okay.
Well, I think we have the 30, I'll make a motion, 36, 63, 64, 78.
Is that all of them? I just.
No, I'm picking the first one and the last three, because we have to still talk about 62, because we haven't voted on
All
it.
right, so one
Oh.
more, please.
So I'm picking Article 36, 63, 64, 78, and
What about 38?
we're gonna get to that. I'm
Oh,
picking
okay.
these four, and I'm agreeing with those four comments. And move
36, 62.
36, 63, 64, 78. 1,
Oh.
4, 5, and 6.
So it's 36, 63,
Yes.
64, and
Yes.
78. Okay,
Yes.
not 62 and not 38.
No, I'm doing those four to move approval of those.
Okay, so I'll accept them. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll start with the roll call. Matt?
Matt Fee, aye.
Bert Johnson, aye.
Fritz McClure, aye.
John Trudell, aye.
Wendy Hudson, aye.
Judith? Leslie?
Leslie, aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, Eleanor, so unanimous on that. And then, so Matt, do you want to talk about these two, or do you
Yeah.
want Andrew?
Well,
or-
Mary's here to talk about, the preservation, which we didn't.
Okay.
We didn't vote on that last time we withdrew it.
Okay,
So that has to be discussed. In the Park and Rec, I just wanted to have a quick conversation.
okay, that's been been discussed.
It has
many
been.
levels
It has been so
lately.
It has, and so are we happy with the comment? Do people want a different comment? Is this?
It was and Jack was here with this, correct? I know he was.
Yes, you.
Okay. I mean,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I think Leslie based that at least on the discussion.
yeah, yeah.
You know, if you want-
This is one of those old, touchy topic from the past that's hard to quantify today. You know what I mean, Matt? So like when somebody's fairly new versus somebody that's been here for forever, it's you get into all these different kind of conversations, and I think that, you know, when you talk about it from a financial point of view, it's an automatic no. When you talk about it from I still feel personally that there's room somewhere. Somebody is going to come up with my little idea about adopting a bike path and adopting with there's 200 landscapers in Nantucket. Pull over and cut some grass. You know what I mean? I mean, make it your spot. Put a sign up, something.
Yeah, but
There's a way to do some of these.
But
I know
think-
that's not what this is.
No,
I'm just
and-
saying.
I mean, my only comment, so if I'm commenting about this, if I'm making a comment about this comment, it's a little squishy. The proponent that some type of action, you know, I would like, I'm not saying we have to reconstitute Park and Rec, but I think that maybe something along the lines of, you know, there's a clear contact. I look at this as it has to be an owner. Who owns this? If someone isn't responsible for Park and Rec, if there isn't someone that you call when there's an issue and they will address it, then it will tend to just disappear because everyone will be too busy to deal with it. And so I just think if we're making a recommendation, you know, it can be somewhat squishy, but at some point, who owns Park and Rec, and if we have a complaint, who do we call? And who gets back to us? And you know, I don't have the answer to that, but that's what I think needs to happen.
I think
if we're
DPW
not going to reconstitute the Park and Rec department or a person, it's going to be assigned to somebody. Then at least we have to have that person be clear.
Well, like the park and clerk person that the guys are talking about, we used to have a clerk of the streets. Isn't that what they called it? Superintendent of streets, I think the name was back.
Clerk of
in
the works,
50s. What was but Matty Jekyll had a superintendent of something, I think.
Clerk of the work.
Is that what it was? Okay, I thought it was superintendent. But anyway, there's going to be some kind of title like that for a person or something, and I think the DPW will probably figure this out with the selectmen and town administration. But I think that what is written here is the area that we're looking at as the area for them. Yep.
So it could be, you know, it could be that instead of some type of action, which is maybe too broad, that it's, you know, that it says that there is more dedication of, you know, financial or staff resources or something. I mean, I get.
That's fine. I'm saying something along those lines so that somebody owns
Some
it.
kind of action could be very.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Broad.
Yeah, we did it when we could. That was an action. You want it to be, you know.
If that's what the commission agrees, I mean, I want to not get too far out of our lane.
Yep.
To the DPW.
Yep, that's why I brought that
I've
up.
spoken to, you know, Rob as a colleague
Yep.
about this, and
Yep.
he feels that he's putting at least time and effort through the master plan, and but if there needs to be more support
Strategic
to,
plan.
you know, for the type of position or structure or
Clarity. I'm trying to think what the word is.
Yeah.
Because that's what's missing now. I hear it fairly constantly.
Right.
You know, and it's gotten a little bit better, but it's been a pretty constant drumbeat.
We need accountability.
There you go.
Like, I go back to Tom David, though. When Tom David went completely haywire, he had to go haywire, though. And now it gets done. Like the sightline stuff, Walnut Road, and other areas, they just did some work out there the other day. They cleaned a drain and they cut back the brush across from just before where the, you know, community sailing thing is there. And that's a bad spot right there. And so I think that Rob will, I think Andrew's right, you know, we have a DPW director that's like really on top of all sorts of stuff. I think he can figure it out with some help from others, but I think we do need to stay in our lane a little bit. But at the same time, there's definitely a part of that department, that DPW, that needs to focus on 4 or 5 things that, like, are listed here, that people complain about, stuff you see, things that people notice not all the stuff under the street, you know, the things that no one realizes is going on. So that would be my point. Yes, John.
Is this? go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
No,
Oh,
no, go
okay.
ahead.
I was just thinking, and maybe we brought this up in previous meetings, but we've heard a couple of things: accountability, and also budget. It's a big problem. If we had expendable income, obviously, and we just had the money to spend, we may have that department back in place. But something, you know, we all the boards now, we have a Little League board, we have a lacrosse board, we have a soccer board. All those boards,
True.
they're the ones, you know, and I've been a board member of each of those organizations. There is accountability, and I'm wondering if instead of a department, a paid department or something like that, we have a commission made up of the chairpersons of each of those boards. And maybe that would have some sort of accountability, where it could even be a revolving position, where if there was a committee or a commission made up of the chairpersons or vice chairpersons and chairpersons of each of those boards, maybe there's, you know, well, this year we're going to elect the lacrosse board chairperson as, you know, as being the go-to person, and then next year it's somebody from the soccer, the chairperson from the soccer board. So I know it's a lot to think about, but accountability, and it's really being, you know, the organizations that are using the facilities that we're talking about maintaining. So they should have the vested interest in keeping up to par, because they're the ones using it. And it's just a thought.
But they're some of the biggest people that contacting us.
Saying well, they wouldn't be contacting, they've been contacting themselves.
Well, yeah, but then okay,
Somebody
you know,
just
but
hang
if they're
up.
not responsible to cut, if someone
Oh my
else is and
God.
it's not being
Oh, it's
cut.
still on.
I mean, basically, in what you're talking about still needs someone within the government to you know, sort of
Liaison.
liaison and direct it, you know, and make sure it happens. I don't know what that answer is. I'm not pretending that we set up the structure tonight. I'm just saying, what's the comment so we can move on.
May I make a
Yes,
suggestion?
Fritz, sorry.
So are we concerned about the language? What if we just said, agree with the proponent that more financial and administrative resources should be dedicated to our parks and recreation areas? Does that do
Period.
anything more than what it already said?
I think that's fine. I think you could cut
I
the
mean,
last two.
rather than some action, it says financial and administrative.
I think that's perfect.
Fine, yeah.
Resources should be dedicated to.
No, take
Give a
out the,
proponent that,
yeah,
and then delete everything more, till you get to more. Financial and administrative resources should be dedicated to our parks and recreation areas.
Yeah.
Period.
I don't know whether you need as needed or.
No, I just say period, and then you can probably just take the rest out.
Yeah.
That says what we're trying to do. Without delineating anything else, that covers everything.
yeah, take out some type of action and say
Yeah.
that, I like the financial and administrative, because the word resources can be anything, you know what I mean? Like, it could be a new building, you know what I mean, for them, it could be
Eleanor,
anything.
did you get, did you get it?
Yeah. I think Leslie's got it.
You sound like
Leslie will fix it.
in a previous life.
Leslie's got it and written down. That's good. I
just
think that's
changing the
better.
verbs and
A
adding
couple of words,
financial and administrative.
take out and couple put in, that'll fix that. Because it's not like we're trying to tell them what to do, but we're trying to sort of set them down the path of the existing department can fix an old department that isn't gonna get recreated, but maybe a little liaison out of the DPW. So that's just what we're sort of, and I think that was mentioned by Jack, or somebody else said that, so.
If that's a
Okay.
motion, I'll second it.
For the
I
language
guess
change.
I made a motion.
He made a
for that
motion, I'm
language
seconding
to
it.
be am- The language to be amended.
Okay,
So Fritz and Matt.
yes,
Roll call.
yeah. Roll,
Maffey, yes.
Brett Johnson, yes.
Rich McClure, yes?
John Trudeau, yes.
Wendy Hudson, yes.
Judith? Sorry.
Yes,
Leslie, you still there? Hi, Leslie. I heard a beep. She might have hung up. Seriously, I heard like a little noise, but I wasn't sure what happened. Okay, so she's gone. So chair votes aye. So Leslie's
One abstention or?
disconnected somehow here, and I'm not sure if I touch something, Judith's gonna catch on fire, so I don't want that to happen. I heard a noise, but the green light
Get
stayed
your fingers
on.
away from
I
that.
heard a noise.
But, okay, so that's great, and thank you, Fritz, for that, thank you, Leslie, and Matt bringing attention to that. It is a sort of a weird conversation, this park and rec thing. Every couple years that pops up. So Matt, you want to talk about the historic buildings?
Yeah, and we had a motion last time. We retracted the initial motion, and we then said, let's ask Mary to show up and talk about her article, and let's also see what happens at FinCom, I think was
Yeah.
what we were talking about. So Andrew has been there.
In addition, I needed to talk to the staff of the departments that would be affected by this.
Right.
So,
And this is really about 64 7th Street? 62? Well, okay, sorry.
No, it's about the 26th. If you're gonna.
Oh, I'm sorry. We had that conversation the last time.
Mary Bergman, no, it's not about 65 Center
Okay.
Street. It's about
Okay.
the 26 contributing structures that have been approved for demolition in the last 2 years. And I think it's
Mary, I think you got to get a little closer
Sorry.
and speak.
Yep, sorry, Mary,
Yeah.
sorry.
close
sorry.
mic. So I think that we've had a lot of productive conversations at the HDC the last 2 weeks, in which the HDC has really kind of recognized their own limitations and that they're not quite sure what a contributing structure is and how to decide if something's historically significant, which is a problem for another day. But I think that they're interested in seeing how they could work with the Historical Commission to determine if a structure was historically significant or preferably preserved. That change, that amendment, I think in order for this article to be successful, it would need to be amended in a way that it could not be amended for this town meeting. So I'm keeping that in mind and very aware of that. I would encourage you with this statement to really put a fine point on it and say that the HDC has the ability to deny demolitions. This statement kind of dances around that, but I think that, you could just say that and it would be very powerful, that they have the tools at their ability right now, or they have tools in their toolkit right now that they're not
Yeah, similar to
currently
the height.
using.
Like they can say something that we don't think that they can, or no one thinks about, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that it might be a good opportunity to call attention to the fact that they have within their jurisdiction to deny a
Andrew, what do you
demolition.
think?
I agree completely, because we're the only community in Massachusetts that makes all of our structures subject to HDC rules and regulations. And that's from the very beginning, from 1955, the original
Act, yep.
specifically empowered them to deny a demolition outright. So I think that's a huge thing, and I think that they can do that. They have that ability, and if they need assistance or a parallel track, I think that could help. It's just that, again, we're voting, not voting a concept, we're voting an article, and I have some concerns about specifically the procedure. I don't want to take anything away from the COA, the certificate of appropriateness that the HDC must issue. And I've worked with a bylaw like this in a town where there's scattered historic resources, and we were able to save a building because we had a property owner that was willing to work with us in the time limit, and it was effective because we were able to hold them up.
Right.
But other towns, where they don't have a strong, I guess, preservation ethic,
Right.
they allow the time to just simply run out, and then the building is demolished if there isn't the support behind it. And so I don't want to weaken our HTC in any way. I'm sure, and I know Mary doesn't want to do that.
Right.
But I think there's not a clear way to salvage this article the way it was submitted, because we have scope issues.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah. No, I do, absolutely.
So
I think, though,
what about the language issue that she has, Andrew? Do you think we could
I think that's
jiggle some words around and make it a little bit, just to let people know that.
absolutely.
Because, I mean, you know, I think Mary's probably thinking in her mind, how many people in the audience know that they have that? Not many would know. So
I've been surprised that some people don't fully understand that.
people don't know their own zoning, let alone this. So I think that that's something that we should consider. I mean, if you agree with it, Andrew, and it sounds like you do, I mean, do you think that this will be coming back in a different form, or we might have a fall town? I don't know if does this fall under that?
I think it's going to depend on how the HDC and the NHC and whoever else is involved, what we're able to do in the next couple of months, and how,
Right.
you know, if it's something that can be, if there's a process that can be codified within, you know, under the HDC's jurisdiction that doesn't require a bylaw change, I think
Right.
that's a good outcome. I think, you know, honestly, I think things have changed a lot in the last couple of months, and just the HDC sort of coming to a realization of where they are and what they need help with, and that they're willing to accept that help is really good.
Okay, well, that's good.
So,
Go ahead, Andrew.
And just, you know, we have been talking about an HDC enabling legislation tune-up. And I want to do that in a comprehensive way.
yeah.
So that's, if we can accomplish it through them adopting some new internal rules and regulations to, you know, seek a referral, there's some other things that may, you know, if we can get buy-in from the HDC, that I think could help here. But ultimately, I don't want to do a one-off HR, you know, home rule petition,
Right.
without sort of getting to the other items, which include some things like, you know, staff review and other things. I mean, we have our new preservation planner.
I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Well, and I think she's,
Role in this.
her assistance has been welcomed by them. I think it's been comprehensive. I know Holly and you all work together, right?
We do, and you know, Holly will ask if she doesn't have the time to look something up. She'll ask, you know, me to do it, and I think what I've really seen is that the HDC values her opinion as a plus staff member in a way they don't necessarily, you know, somebody else. Like, you know, she has her credentials and they're valued, which is good. So, you know, the other things we were discussing at the meeting, at the HDC meeting, and I, you know, would included having a separate application for demolition, which doesn't exist currently. So I think there are ways to certainly improve the process, and they seem to want to.
I like this.
I hope.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. It's really good that you brought this up. It's really good that these conversations are happening,
Yeah.
because we've talked about them for years, and this is, you know, pointing us in the right direction. So I think that's all positive. I would like I would like to find a way for Fritz to shorten this. And make it a little, to use his legal superpowers, and and just go more to the point, like because it says, which is already addressed in the enabling legislation. I think if we could almost end it saying that they're allowed to do it now. You know, and make it powerful that people know that they're allowed to do some of this now.
I think that would go.
I think that's the most important
I think
part.
after the word implement, where it says significantly, we could kind of rewrite that last sentence and plug in what Mary's suggesting somehow.
Yeah,
And I think you guys can figure that out.
It's important to note that they can prevent the demolition to happen, period.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
I want, that needs to be in there
Right, to
somehow.
just simply say, no, we don't allow it. They
Yeah.
have that right.
And make it very clear, they have the right to do it permanently. No, you can't do it.
Right,
I mean,
so
if the
it's not a
house
matter
is,
of time
if there's
or
nothing
or-
left and it's rotted
or anything.
completely out, that's different. But like if, I know it's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all you have to do is go back and look at building with Nantucket in mind, because
Yeah.
it does kind of lay it out as to what they should be doing.
Yeah, I'm sorry I brought up Fran's, because Fran's letter's in the paper this
Oh,
week,
yeah.
so I
No,
just
it's okay.
figured, and
It's
it
okay.
came
It
up
was-
at the last time we talked about it, so I apologize for
well,
that.
no, I'm just touchy because it was misreported by the INM, which was then misreported by the Cape Cod Times, which was then,
Oh,
it is what it is.
okay. Well, I apologize for just saying that. I didn't mean to make it sound like, So,
okay.
so, well, I mean,
That's
Fritz
Fritz working on it.
is working on that.
I don't think that's,
Leslie, do you have,
Darn, I was trying.
yeah,
this can be done
Yes.
without me.
Because I know I'm talking to the historical commission, I'm gonna be at their meeting on Monday.
all right.
Maybe we could just work together to come up with a comment that you're happy with and.
Yeah, can you I'm not going to be able to be at that meeting, but if you can email me, that
Right,
would be
okay.
helpful.
So
Okay.
after we discuss that with them, and then,
Like,
we will send you out another draft after we've talked to
Great.
get that together.
yeah. I think it's important to leave the in addition about the home rule though, because that's what you just sort of talked about that. Maybe you could write something about changing the bylaws or whatever at this level, and the fact that they already have the ability to
Yeah, I think
do
that's-
this.
that's,
Put that in there
up
somehow.
front, Yeah.
So.
I think I get it.
Would that be on, that wouldn't be on the warrant though? No,
No,
this is for the finance committee.
It may be, if we
Oh,
may-
the select board's comments.
we may still adopt it as,
Right.
I'm guessing that some of these will
I
adopt.
keep forgetting that you can do that. I keep forgetting that.
It also could be adopted from the FinCom, in their.
Could be their motion too. Okay,
Right.
perfect. So we're sort of helping write something, at the same time educate them for their decision. Okay. All right, John, you got anything on this? I keep forgetting to look
No,
over
you
here.
looked. I
Am
saw
I
it.
good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
So we will send you out a draft comment with a deadline for you to respond.
Okay, Mary, thank you for everything. I'm sorry about that. So this is good. So we're clear now. That's good. So Matt, do you want to, do we need to make a motion for this one, or is this,
How about I make,
these two, you've got the other one all set? The park one, Park and Rec one.
yeah, we voted that one.
No, you didn't.
Oh, we didn't?
Not, no, we just went through discussion.
I think,
Someone made a
didn't we
motion.
vote
We
for that?
did, with
Yeah, we
amendment.
did.
No?
Didn't we make them?
Yeah, we did
voted,
that
that's when we
language to
realized
be
it
I
wasn't-
think we made a motion that Leslie had the, we did. Judith remembers that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just, that's the motion that we found out Leslie wasn't on the phone anymore.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Matt, then
Want
why
us
don't
to
we,
redo
why
it,
don't we
Eleanor?
have a motion
No,
that,
that's probably here somewhere. I'm cutting and
Okay.
pasting Leslie's
All right, that's fine.
comments so that it's okay, I'll fix it.
So
No.
we're just Article 62.
so Article 62 will make a motion, I'll accept a motion to accept a new comment from staff. Is that a new comment from staff, or?
That you'll, that you approve the development of, a comment to be finalized by staff and the articles of proponent. You'll be provided with the draft and respond with it at a certain time.
Okay. Is that
Yep.
good, Matt?
Yep, second. Or I'll
No,
make
that's
that
your motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, great. So,
Matt Fee, yes.
yeah. Bert,
Yes.
we're
Bert
doing the
Johnson,
roll
yes.
call
You got a
now.
roll call.
Bert Johnson, yes.
If you
Fritz
agree.
McClure, yes.
John Trudeau, yes.
Wendy,
Hudson, yes.
Judith,
Yes, yes.
and chair votes aye. Judith, I think you are happy smiling at this last conversation. This is a good one.
I am.
Up your alley, this one. Okay.
I take over.
Where are we going now? Let's
we're done.
see.
Director of Planning.
Yeah, so so Andrew, can you just explain? We're gonna continue to March 16th?
Yes, the system is quite complicated. You all haven't got your emails.
Yeah.
yet. I have some documents I need to get to
Okay.
as well.
Okay. And it would be good to have Judith here as well, and Leslie here, but I mean, I'd like Judith to be here anyway, so
Thank you.
I think I can say that.
I'll be there.
So,
I'd like to be there too.
yeah, it just isn't right to not have, whatever. Okay.
All
So,
there.
So other committee reports, I have a couple things. Does anyone else have anything on any
I
other?
have one.
Okay, go ahead, Fritz.
Want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Coastal Resources Advisory Committee, I sit on that committee, as does Matt, as a select board member. And I just wanted to just give a heads up, and I don't think it's anything we need to discuss right now. But we had, at our meeting, whenever it was, this last week, we are sending out an RFP for the consultant to help write the report. The report will be probably finalized in, I don't know, 18 months maybe. Concerns about what can we do in the interim to try to take into account some of the things that we might be thinking about. But the topic came up, ultimately, it is likely that the report will be suggesting, it will be suggesting many action items. Those action items may be items that are coming under, from, or will be the responsibility of various departments in town government. The concern that was expressed was that somebody should be overall in charge of the planning or implementation of this report, which came to the question of this committee, because it is the county planning authority and presumably under its charter would have the jurisdiction to be able to do that. I'm simply I'm just saying that is something that was discussed by the committee as maybe making sense, and that's about where it is. So
what about the recommendation side of it, Andrew, versus no regulatory authority? Sort of like recommending to the select board through this committee or something like that.
Right,
Just
I'm
asking.
Wondering about that other committee. Well, it's something. I mean, it's certainly something.
the feeling is that there was just there needs to be somebody once this committee, once the advisory committee gets done doing the report, making its recommendation to the select board, one of the things will be a recommendation that there be somebody put in place to actually implement that program like there are in a lot of other reports. And the question is simply, is under the state law, is this entity capable of doing that? And
it may, and the committee itself may, coastal resiliency may continue. There'll be a coastal resiliency director, presumably forever now, and that'll continue, but there'll still be topics, even if that continues and it doesn't get buried here, it's still gonna have to come, there's gonna be a lot of things that are gonna have to come here and come to planning board and,
Capital.
and
They're
capital.
gonna be going through capital. They already
so
had.
there's a bunch of things that will still
Well,
gonna
they
have to happen.
jiggled some of that
so.
stuff around, Matt.
Yeah.
Vince took several items that would, it's like Park and Rec versus DP. I mean, they took a couple of projects, the one at Fulling Mill, all right, which was sort of, I didn't even know about that one, but it makes a lot of sense. And then the thing at Sakatcha got brought into capital under his department now, where it would have been maybe DPW or, something.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to end up being some of these items. How they're going to sort of migrate their way the same way they would have if it was if it was Jeff Carlson doing it. You know what I mean?
I simply brought it up because it was something that was discussed, and I didn't want people to say, "Oh, you've been discussing this and nobody mentioned it."
No, this is good.
Since it relates.
This is something brand new. I mean, it's not. It's new and old at the same time. It's something that could have been. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a new thing. It's just something, a different way to approach it.
I think the comment was simply, could this committee be a committee that might do that? And that's the way it was left.
Judith, do you have something?
Matt?
Yes.
If you don't mind, Chris, can you be sure that Pratt realizes too that when we update the master plan, that's going to be overlapping too, and I hope some of the policy recommendations, if there will be ones.
Okay, so.
At points they could be addressed in the comprehensive plan. Is that the way you're thinking about it?
let me relay that to Andrew. Did you understand what you just said? Okay, so what Judith is saying is the 9 elements, if there's a way to, when we're talking about some of the area plans and the master plan process where some of the resiliency issues get brought into those conversations in those areas. Is that what you mean, Judith? Did you hear? Is that what you're saying?
Some recommendations.
Right.
It's just, I'm thinking especially if they're putting out an RFP for somebody to work on that if the master planning process is going to involve covering some of the same ground, that when they write the RFP, it should somehow include some indication that there should be cooperation or input or collaboration with the master planning process.
Right.
I think the feeling is there are lots of various plans that have, or to some extent or another, resiliency. For instance, long-term transportation plan has resiliency language in it.
Yeah, no, I know.
And so the idea would presumably be, if this committee or the report coming out of this committee is supposed to be the authority on resiliency, that presumably those other plans would at some point incorporate the recommendations that the committee report comes up with.
Andrew, can we just ask you as, head honcho here to come up with a way to, unravel what Fritz is saying? I think he made a really good point just a second ago about how some of Mike's stuff has got some of these questions. Whether I agree with some of this stuff or not, I don't care. It's going to just keep talking about it. What I heard last night, it was enough for me to just laugh even longer on a couple of them. But at the same time, some of the projects need to happen, whether it has had to do with Estes Island or not. It doesn't matter what storm it was. So these things are important. So I don't think that this group can be recommending in the sense of a regulatory way, but we could go through it like BPAC would do for something. I mean, that's why we formed BPAC, to break out a section of stuff, to give it to somebody else to sort of focus in on it. And it's worked about as good as Broad Street being one way, in my opinion. So you like that, Matt? Because you used that one today. Somebody did it at the meeting.
No, I don't think I did.
And somebody said that today. So I think that Judith's part's almost separate from it, because some of it isn't going to be in there, but we're going into the master plan now again. So I think that's what she means by that, is to get it. Don't forget this stuff in these conversations. But as far as what,
right,
you know what I mean, Judith, the opportunity part.
No, that's exactly right. But I'm also thinking, if they're writing a contract for external services,
From finance, yes.
If the contract doesn't say, pay attention to this, then they'll come back and want another $100,000 to do that.
Oh.
So better than it be
Put in at the beginning.
Yeah. Like if we were doing, for example, if we were doing Brant Point over again, Andrew, this stuff would be coming up, even if it's just going to come up because it's been talked about so much. It was never even discussed 10 years ago.
Right.
I was on that one.
Well,
And no, that never came up, flooding.
I think there's a couple things that, in all of the 9 elements, there's going to be overlap.
Yeah.
Because, from land use to services to infrastructure, there's going to be this
Okay.
influence on
So it's
all
not
of
going to
them.
have to have its own item.
Well, not necessarily. It might have to be, it's going to touch all of those elements in some degree or another. And I don't have the report, so I don't know exactly what that will be, but I see that impacting pretty much
Especially the
every
town
of
one.
those
Yeah.
right? There's just no question.
And it may have its own, half chapter, one paragraph or something, because basically some of the things that we talk about are, what is the baseline that the town is using now? How many feet are they using? What are they basing it on? When I brought that question up when they were doing the Harbor Master's building recently, I was told it can't be any higher because we'd have to have a long ramp. And so it was kind of like, and I'm thinking, well, what did we base it on? What was it, a FEMA number? Was it a future number? And what we're looking at as a committee is going out 30 years from now, which is sort of the length of a mortgage, and then going out sort of 50 years from that. And so, and then if you're building something, so one thing we talked about the other day was just talking about roads, and we brought up Sacagawea Pond and how that's going to have work done.
That's what I was just trying
And so,
to.
but the interesting part is in
Yeah.
the midst of that conversation, I mentioned, well, when we do it, if we have to raise the road, we should raise it to one level, but be able to raise it further. And most people, I think, are envisioning that there would be a, sort of rock road, et cetera. But then, Concom member is there saying, well, wait a minute, this, the best way to do this is to raise it so that you don't just have floodgates anymore. You raise it so the wetlands can continue connect on the other side.
Like long pond stuff.
And
Like
so
the
in that
ones out
one
there.
conversation, it went from, let's throw a few rocks down and save this road, to when we plan this, let's plan it so that the water can flow underneath, because what's going to happen is all these wetlands are going to, they need to expand. They're going to have a place to expand. And how do you set it up so that they can? In those places, it's harder to do with private property, but on places that are going into conservation land or land bank, et cetera, the more water you can store and allow it to go where it wants to do, the better off you're going to be. So that was just one simple example, but you could easily see when you do an RFP, what you write is what you get back a lot of times. And if you don't ask the question right, you don't get the right answer. And so, I said, if I've said it, just, stop me, but I met with Barnaky right before he died, and he was telling me a story about how he wanted to build the marina, and he hired the best guy in the country, and they came and gave him this report and charged him a lot of money back then, and they said, you go down into the creeks and you fill them in, and there's your marina. And he said, well, I don't like that. He said, he hired the second best guy in the country, got the same story. And finally he said, wait a minute, I'm asking the wrong question. How do I build a marina next to downtown? And he got the plans that he has now. So you have to what you ask for, you have to be specific enough to get back the right answer. And so we have to, as a community, I think we have to be thinking about resiliency all the time, and not just sort of, well, this is good enough for now, because, it's gonna happen in stages, and we have to be able to be ready to do that. Anyway.
Andrew, so what do you think about this, so we can move,
On the second,
Yeah.
again, on the implementation, I think, there is this position that's been created, the coastal resiliency
Coordinator, I think, yeah.
which is, housed in the,
Concom office,
Resources
Department. Which is moving, right?
If it is,
Thought it was.
if it's gonna move out of there into, again, there has to be staff support for this. There has to be professional level staff support, as we know, we're losing an important position. Our senior planner position has not been filled. So, it's something to think about, and I'm glad you're bringing it up now, because it's a discussion I need to have with the town manager and possible, structure into the future, so.
Like I say, it was just within a week that this even came up as a subject, so.
Okay, so my only report is school campus committee that I got appointed to without even knowing. It's really great. And I know that's nothing to do with this, really, but stuff gets brought up, and people need, what do people think we're building a new school this year? I heard that already. It's like, aren't we building a new school? Isn't it on the warrant? No, but they are doing a great job up there. I asked Diane to get Ken involved a little bit in this group, because the people that are involved are mostly really caring parents that are involved in the school, but like the dirt part of it is a different discussion. And I felt like I was over my head, and I knew a lot, but I'm like, there has to be somebody like an Andrew there that can talk about things differently. So that's working really well. If anyway you see Diane O'Neill, just say hello and say, I hear things are going well. Steamship Vineyard member for 14 years, just sort of didn't re-up. I heard today that the person that's gonna get appointed is not, let's see.
Compatible?
No, I'm trying to come up with the right word. Not, their hair isn't on fire about what happened 2 years ago with the boat breaking down. And I think they're gonna come back to earth at the Vineyard. I was at a meeting Tuesday. It was a joint meeting with the board, and it was good. And it was more calm and not as like, oh my God, what, we don't, things are wrong over here. Because the Vineyard has been, I know you've read some stuff. It's worse than the stuff I've been sending around. But they have to come back to earth, and I think they are. So that's good for us, because we're out here sort of, hey, what's up? We don't even have a problem, and they're over there complaining, and we're sort of screwed up. Like, what's wrong? You know what I mean? So I think things are going to be better. So that's all I have.
How's Rob doing?
Good, better, getting better. Yeah, be back to work, I think, in a week.
I have a-
Yes, Wendy.
For the Rural Policy Advisory Commission that I'm on from this agency, we released the plan. I think the link, thanks, Eleanor sent it out to everybody a while ago. It's available on the website, et cetera. But one of the recommendations was just kind of what Fritz was saying, like, we made this plan, we made these recommendations, there's nobody in charge, so we said it should be staffed at the state level. And that was our recommendation, and we got an update from Linda Dunleavy, our chair, which is that the legislation did not move out of committee, but it was given an extension, so it's not moving fast, but it didn't die. So there's still a hope for that. And there's a rural caucus meeting in Boston on February 26th, if anybody's interested.
And weren't you just appointed to?
Rural caucus one?
Rural caucus meeting, Representative Paul Mark from Western Mass chairs that, and it's Wednesday, February 26th at 11 a.m., room number to be determined in the State House.
And didn't I read you were just appointed to something else after this?
Yes, I'm on the Retailers Association of Massachusetts Executive Committee, and through that I got put on the governor's merged marketplace. And it's about health insurance. It's like single users with small business. No, merged marketplace.
Sorry.
It's an health insurance merged marketplace. I don't have any expertise or knowledge about this at all, but it was through through RAM, as I said. So I'm learning a lot about
I read it
insurance.
somewhere. Congratulations.
Yeah, Wendy,
I think
this
it
is
was
good.
probably through RAM. Yeah.
We're happy to have you doing all
I love
this,
that
Wendy.
stuff.
Judith, do you have anything
Yeah.
for other committee report stuff, or I don't want to overlook you.
no.
Okay.
And I'll just make my quick
Matt.
comment. Newtown Road, this was number 24, page 22. And under other business, I'll can't finalize it. It basically talks about a multi-use path, traffic calming, and I think we should consider building it as an urban area with sidewalks, maybe a multi-use path and a sidewalk if there's space. That area is urban, and it's gonna continue to urbanize even more. And so I think we should be doing urban form in those areas. And since it's in design, it would be a good time to be thinking about that. So anyway.
I think, when you look at Newtown, it has never had on street. People built their own sidewalk, kind of like by Gobbins. You see how they made their little sidewalk there. I don't know what the layout of Newtown Road is. Mike, do you know what it is? Is it 40?
It's 30, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
Well,
to have on street one side and cars to be able to pass and repass, we could be creating another Amelia Drive. It has to be.
Yeah, well, exactly. But
It's
we have
got
to
to be
look at it.
28 feet.
Yeah,
and
we have
then
to
you
look
get the
at it, 'cause
sidewalk, so quite a bit.
Do it right. Yeah.
I just
So-
don't want to. I don't want to be building, raceways that then we have to, with no trees and no
Yeah.
parking, that we then have to put speed bumps on. I think we should be thinking about that as an urban environment.
I thought you wanted the speed
This
bump,
might
though.
be a really far-fetched
We have to
idea.
right now. We
Right.
have to. We have no
Oh,
choice.
Yeah.
I think about, I don't want to use the word New York City around Nantucket, but the one-way streets, if you had Newtown going one way, you would actually get that
Yeah.
sidewalk, and then charters, the next way, and then Parker the next way, if you can coordinate
It's like
it, so you're
Fair
not
and
being
Pine.
inconvenienced, but you're
Fair
getting
Street, Pine
the
Street
allotted
now.
space needed for a true sidewalk.
It's not New
or a
York,
bike path or
it's
something.
downtown Nantucket.
See, I knew I shouldn't have said that.
No, but the funny one, that is where we're heading. And a lot of the islanders I talk to don't believe that it'll never happen. It won't be like that. But the density is going to keep going, and we may, if we design for it now, I think we're better off, myself. And I think town areas should be town areas. They should be urban. The streets should connect. There should be a lot of connections. There should be a lot of
Spreading
on-street
out.
parking.
Yeah.
There should be a lot of
That's the
traffic
key.
calming
And
through the whole area. So
I actually like the humps. I mean, it's like Lily Street. They work. I mean, you don't lose your tools. You don't lose your coffee cup.
Depends on how fast you're going.
No, you don't. Oh, well, okay.
First
You know
time
what I
you
mean. And the fire truck issue isn't an issue. I mean, it kind of makes everything go away that everyone was complaining about. I don't disagree with you, Matt. I just don't know what we have there. It's like the first way discussion.
Yeah.
You wanted parking to slow it down. I think it works. I think the biggest problem there is the sight line at that little spot on Hooper Farm. The fence might need to go back one length, Mike. That's what I think should happen there. But anyway, so this is similar, but that's a narrow road, all locals that think it's sort of the way it is forever. And I don't know what they would say. You'd have to do a survey on all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so Mike's up now. Mike Burns. Moving away. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this, Mike Burns, gentleman, moving to Texas. All the conversations we've had about sports over the years.
Just a text message away.
When you were away and when you were off island and Frank called me when his wife fell down in the kitchen and I had to go to his house 1 o'clock in the morning because you weren't home to pick her up and I had to do it. And I was proud to do that, Mike. But I did ask him, isn't Mike home?
do I really have to get out in the middle of the
He's
night?
away. Okay, I'm right there to put my clothes on, drive over there. And you know, Mike, we've had our ups and downs, and we've had our, you know, all this discussion on roundabouts and Nantucket and the negativity. And I have to say something about that. I have said to Andrew 1,000 times, I'm sorry about Nantucket. Because I feel like it's me. It's not me, but it's my place that I grew up in. Lots of people are in the cemetery, my family. And when somebody like you comes here, it's hard. You came here after Beth. I think you came here right after the Eel Point bike path. And I'm pretty sure that's when you came here, right?
Yep.
That was the last thing she did, as I recall.
I believe so.
And it's a tough place, Mike, to sell something. And I'm sorry that was this experience that you had, but I hope that the good that we did, Cliff Road, and connecting that last piece at Old South, getting the funding for that from the town, because we needed to finish it, and you know, the things that we've been able to get done, it's unbelievable. How many miles of bike path do we have now? 32, I think it is, or something, 35?
Close to 33, yeah.
Yeah. What did we have when you came here? 12?
20. 4 or 5.
Yeah. But that was the stuff that was already here, that was here anyway. Nantucket, Surfside, Pulpus, which was very difficult. And Sconset was here in, 1950 something?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I certainly appreciate you, Mike. And I'm going to give you this beautiful plaque that Judith wrote and got a little bit of editing from staff. And I kind of had a little goosebumps when I read this when Judith sent it to us the other night. So that's from us, Mike.
I'm not going to be able to read it now. Or else,
and you were here for how many World Series? 3.
all of them in our lifetimes.
Oh, you were here in 04? You were here in 04. So that's, okay, 18. So yeah, So Mike,
I brought the dynasty with me.
see, that's the thing. You,
Now he's moving to Texas.
and you're going back where they cheated, but that's okay.
The Red Sox report's out next week.
Houston. No, but seriously, being here for 4 World Series
And I don't know how many Super Bowls, but
since from 1918 to 2004, and Mike was here for all 4. That's unbelievable.
Well,
Mike,
just
we're
remember
gonna
one
miss you,
thing.
Mike.
Now that you leave here, you can use the word stoplights again. I know you had to take it out when you came here.
I can't believe that a place like Houston, Texas would hire somebody that has 0 experience with traffic lights or overpasses.
Mike's from Nantucket. We don't have traffic lights. We don't paint cobblestones.
Yeah.
We don't have McDonald's.
No?
Oh my God, I love it.
You can always come back.
Well, you know, if you could only instruct him on how to use a speakerphone, you could attend all of our meetings from now on.
Oh my
The good
God.
news is they're televised, and so I can actually.
This phone is older than, this is from another building, I think. So Mike, seriously, so
No,
are you gonna be okay? Is this gonna work for you?
If you see me again, you know my 6-month review didn't go that well. But I wouldn't have been hired in the first place if I didn't have the chance to grow here. So I definitely appreciate a lot of this place, and I'm taking a lot with me. Experiences,
Phone numbers.
phone numbers, yeah. I'm going to be visiting a lot. I still have family in the area, so I'm going to be visiting here every once in a while. So not gone forever. Just when you see me, I'll probably be happier because I'll be a tourist.
I haven't,
And in July and
I
August,
gotta-
when the humidity in Houston is so bad.
You said it. You absolutely said it.
you don't ever have to pay to stay here. I got a place, and other people I'm sure do too, so.
I got a
Congratulations.
You ever need to come
Best
here.
wishes.
No, I appreciate that.
Judith, are you there? Judith,
Yep,
you wanna say anything to Mike?
nice that. I just want to wish you well. No, I want to wish you well, and I knew I'd be gone, so that's why I sat down and wrote that. But it's from all of us and
Yep.
all who've come before us, too, because we know how much you've done, and I'm very moved by your comments, Mr. Chair. Good job.
Thank you, Judith, very much. Very much. So, I don't know what else to say, Andrew. I don't have any prepared words.
We will be at the brewery tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Tomorrow at 5.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna
nice
be
day.
off
Come on,
island, but
chilling?
Wendy's
there
gonna be
next
at a
time Mike
rural
comes
conference.
I'm actually going to my mom's on Cape, but
We
no,
could-
I didn't know about that. Sorry.
No, it's-
We'll tell them to roll out the carpet, and definitely next time we'll do a big brewery.
All right, I
Sometime in the
appreciate
summer.
that.
Come back.
You know, the thing that did make me happy is, you know, I worked here, but I also, you know, served with the Rotary Club too, and I did
Yep.
get to see Jack last
forgot about
week.
that.
Jack Gardner was one of the people that was served as a mentor early on from the very, very beginning, and I think it's the generosity and the sharing of the knowledge, and it's just so meaningful. So
couldn't-
I'm glad I got to see him before.
It couldn't be better said. Jack is somebody that I just, shake his hand every single time I see him, help him walk, wherever he's doing. So I'm on the boat by himself, I go, whoa, I gotta help Jack. You know what I mean?
No,
I mean,
it's-
he's just somebody, and that's nice that you said that because you figured that out right away. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
They don't understand things like that, Mike. They don't have the instinct to realize that this guy knows what he's talking about. Take 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, he's one of the
So-
people you latch on to.
Yeah. And like you did with Frank.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Tomorrow at 5 at the brewery, Andrew. I like that. Thank you for setting that up. Leslie, thank
So,
you.
is that Andrew's buying tomorrow at the brewery at 5?
I'll see what I can do.
Wendy's buying.
2 points. 2 points, Leslie.
They're gonna be there. They just said the booth was free.
We're also having coffee and pastries at the office tomorrow at 9, if anyone wants to stop by.
Okay. All right. So with that, anyone else have anything? Mike, you all set?
I think so.
This will be the last time we say motion to adjourn, Mike.
I know it. If
Motion
everything-
to adjourn?